All right. Hey, welcome back to the Go for CEO channel. This is John the Bomb. Building others means business. And so cool. I'm a dad of three girls. This young lady has been a savage in business. Now, you know, Savage Growth Partners is what she established and founded. So she's been doing some really cool stuff in the performance-driven agency, right? She's service-based businesses achieving 7 to 8 figure revenues. Her firm specializes in crafting profit generating marketing campaigns, emphasizing clarity, confidence, and measurable results. So, this is really cool to have Jensen Savage on the Go for CEO channel. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. Thanks so much for having me.
That's awesome. Awesome. So, yeah, we're excited. I mean, by the way, subscribe to the channel and say that enough. Keep on growing the community and being a part of the Go for CEO movement. And the book's coming out in July. So, stay tuned for that. So, Jensen, love having you on here. Talk a little bit about, what you've been able to do and grow, and obviously the Savage Growth Partners and what you established. I'm assuming there's been a story behind it. So, we always try to have our interviewees share, what was the ideation stage? Did you have some expertise and things that you were driving to get to this point? Or was it like, hey, thought of it, did it, let's go? So share a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah, so the path to get here has been a little unique. So I worked as a marketing leader for several different companies from fitness to finance, mostly within the service-based business world. So that's kind of where I earned my stripes when it came to marketing. I originally started out in social media and content creation, that sort of thing. But I quickly realized there's a whole bunch more to marketing. And I just thought it was really cool. I was really attracted to the idea of being able to spark exponential growth. And so working with smaller service-based businesses, you can really come in and inject a lot of success really quickly by doing the right things. But a problem that I saw in the traditional marketing agency space was essentially the way that marketing agencies operate is fundamentally misaligned with business goals, right? So a lot of marketing agencies want everything to be templated, want to productize their offerings, and basically just apply one thing to a business, charge for it, move forward. They're not really looking at the entirety of the business and how it operates and the metrics and really looking at driving bottom line growth and sustainable success. And so that was something that I kind of learned in working within businesses. You really are exposed to all those different business functions and how marketing ties into sales, how sales ties into operations. And so that's where I originally got the idea for Savage Growth Partners, was because there's not really many businesses out there that are doing this. They're operating as marketing agencies, and marketing agencies can, don't get me wrong, can spark a lot of success for businesses, but I wanted something that was more holistic and involved and really a true partnership when it came to business growth. And so that's kind of where that all started for me.
And having experience in something is always interesting, right? But then how do you create a business out of it? It's kind of what, the Go for CEO mindset is, right? Is taking ownership of your current role, being an entrepreneur, which is what sounds like you were. You always had that kind of entrepreneur mindset, but inside the companies you were conducting yourself like a CEO, right? So
Mhm.
so what were the first 90, 60, 60, 90, 180 days like for you transitioning? Did you start up the agency kind of while you were working with someone, or did you just go cold turkey? How did you fund that kind of growth at the beginning? What were some of those aspects?
Yeah, so I've always done, side projects, moonlighting, that sort of stuff. Just because frankly I'm passionate about business growth and I always love the new challenges and just exposing myself to all sorts of different businesses and kind of just doing stuff on the side. I always was attracted to that. But it wasn't until honestly I kind of got more confidence in myself to jump off and truly devote myself completely to my own business. And it's funny because, I had generated tens of millions of dollars before I ever jumped off to do my own thing. And it's funny that, I had this evidence, this empirical evidence that I could do this thing, but it took me so long to like break through like the mental barrier of like, I can do this. And so that's what kind of sparked me really going off on my own, was having that confidence in myself. But as far as what the first, 90 days of the business looked like, honestly, a large portion of that was not even, trying to market the business, trying to sell my services. It was really kind of crystallizing what I wanted to be in the business, because I never wanted to set out to just make money or, just do the highest volume of deals possible. Um, because there's so many ways that I could do that, probably in an easier way. um, but I really, really wanted to build something that aligned with my values and aligned with building something that's never been done before. And so I really spent a lot of that time just thinking and planning and figuring out what I wanted the business to be. And also just talking to a lot of other business owners and talking about their experiences with business growth, and really identifying on a deep level what their pain points were, what their experiences were, and how I could construct an experience that directly addressed those things, so that, I could kind of carve our own niche within kind of the marketing and business growth world to build that thing that's completely different. So basically all that to say, it was a lot of foundational work, a lot of building, and a lot of just kind of identifying the path that I wanted to take overall.
No, it's interesting, right? I mean, establishing that who you are, right? The why you are, those types of scenarios. Now, it is interesting that you said you kind of did that in the first 90 days of starting the business. So were you still working and then let's say you incorporated and then had that thought from 9 to 5, you're doing your thing, but 5 to 9? Or was it, did you truly go off on your own because you needed that space, that time, that inner reflection to kind of set that mode of what you just shared?
Yeah, so I've owned my own business for several years. Several years, like I said, just doing kind of stuff on the side, not completely devoting myself to it. But yeah, so kind of started with doing more moonlighting stuff, and it wasn't until I had a deal that was substantial enough to be like, okay, I can easily devote all my time to this. Where it was like, okay, now I have the financial capability to step into this 100%. And so that was logistically the precipice for being able to step off. So that's what that looked like, kind of starting with deals. And sorry if you can hear, there's a train in the background here. Um uh Starting with the deal, and then being able to kind of expand from there, because I had that financial capability then to devote more time and energy to doing it.
And it's a real thing, right? So Go for SEO community, we've met with so many business owners throughout the last few years. You know, Jensen's talking about, right, that real thing that you're in that entrepreneur spirit. You have that entrepreneurial thing that you're doing, right, from let's say 5 to 9 or even before, office hours in the beginning of the day. But then finding that opportunity where that big windfall of a client that can support you for a burn rate, right, of 6 months or 3 months, and then it kind of gets you going. So that's pretty awesome stuff. And you didn't do any lending or anything like that that I guess capitalized you up front, or you did full bootstrap.
Nope, just bootstrapped it.
Awesome, awesome. And I love that. That's part of the spirit of what we all are, combining our efforts in the entrepreneur spirit. Um, so, as you put this thought together and started to kind of formulate what you were really about, this first client gives you that extra oomph to kind of get off the nest or to get out of the nest. What were some of the ways that being in the marketing kind of savage growth, scenario that you were doing while you had this one client? How were you starting to market and build, momentum to more clients?
Yeah, so I think it's funny because so that one client sparked so many different referrals and word of mouth relationships coming from that. So that was the biggest way I started to build initial clients. Um, and then from there, I was just building up case studies and testimonials from the work that I did with those people. Um, so yeah, I would say very first step was just doing good work. And honestly, deals from that point just kind of started to come to me. Obviously, there's been other strategies since then, but that was kind of the start of having deals start to flow in.
All right. Well, I'm gonna have to test you a little bit because, we all say, hey, good work breeds referrals, but most people aren't thinking of, hey, this person did good work for me. Let me just refer them people. So what were some activators that you had? Was it the way that you engaged with that one main client? Was it you were enhancing the relationship and you were saying to them, hey, do you know of other people that you work with that are other companies that would like to have this type of service? What were some of the ways that you kind of planted the seed in that scenario?
Yeah, so the client was a franchise system, so I was working with multiple franchise owners. So that was kind of beneficial in the sense that, there were more connections that they had than just, one person would have. So there was that kind of innate benefit there. But other than that, I would say, I never asked for referrals, oddly enough. So um, I would say the biggest thing though that sparked people just bringing people my way was that going above and beyond factor and doing something that other people don't do. Like going out of my way to say, "Hey, I identify this opportunity for you that I think we should do." Just showing that level of care that I think is often overlooked, especially in the marketing world where it is very transactional, it's very, canned in a lot of cases. I think that was a big reason that people sent people my way was that they could feel that genuine passion and care and value that I brought to the table, and they would, have other business owners that were in a similar space and they're like, "Hey, you got to check this out," because they're having their marketing woes and they're like, "Hey, we're getting great results here. This company's great." And so that's just kind of how those first couple came through.
And there's a lot of wisdom in that, right? If you see the Go for SEO community, learn from what Jensen just shared. A franchise is really a system, right? Save yourself time, energy, and money, right? And you walked in, you promoted to this first owner of a system called a franchise, and now the multiple franchisees started going, oh, well, who are you using, right? And started creating that momentum. So really, really cool stuff. So, tell us a little bit about, so now you're past it, right? You got this one franchise, you start to grow to other ones. Did you stay in that vertical for a while, or did you start to kind of reach out to different industries once you felt that strength and that power and that connection of how you were doing business?
Yeah, so that certainly helped. But yeah, quickly branched out because so now I operate in the service-based businesses space at large. So there's so many things that fall under that umbrella. Um, but quickly started to expand from there because at its core service businesses are largely the same. Obviously, you've got certain things that are different, but the overall principles are the same. You have people that come in, you close them, you provide excellent service, and you continue to build from there. That's really kind of the overarching framework of service-based businesses. And so and even before building my own company, I had already had that exposure to the service-based business world. So it was a little easier for me to kind of expand out from there because I already had all these different verticals under my belt that I could pull on experience from. And so there was definitely confidence from that fact as well. I'd have no problem going to a fitness business and saying, "Hey, I can help you," because I've done it before. So definitely started to expand out from there. And yeah, that's kind of what that looked like.
All right, well, here's the power moment, right? So you start growing the client base. You are just one person. You have, I'm sure, great techniques to be able to maximize your time. What was the time frame that you then, involved someone else to help you? What was that critical mass point that you said to yourself, okay, I probably can't handle this 24 hours a day.
Yes.
So where do I where am I willing to give up, some of the piece of the pie to bring in new talent and then also expand my business and scale from there? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so absolutely great question. It was a hard thing for me to do because I built the business with the intention of providing the absolute best service, doing something that was unique. And so with that, came this feeling almost of not wanting to delegate because I didn't want service to suffer. And maybe it was an ego thing of like, oh, nobody can do it like I can. And so that was kind of a hard mental barrier to overcome, but it was absolutely critical because like you said, you can only handle so much. You can't do infinite work. And that was something I had to kind of internalize is like, yeah, to be scalable and to grow past this point, I am going to have to delegate. So the point that I hit though was I realized I was spending so much time on client work that I was not giving my full effort to other things that were more revenue producing. Um, there was so many opportunities out there for me to go to networking events. I have a lot of success when I meet people face to face with closing new clients, but it's like I can't do that if the clients that I do have, I'm completely head down all the time working on their stuff, which I'm happy to do, but again, it's a barrier to producing more revenue. So that was a big reason where I'm like, okay, I have to bring somebody in and I have to just teach them the way that I do things around here, and I need to focus my attention on things that are going to push the business forward. So that was kind of that mindset shift that brought me to beginning to delegate.
And how did you use that? Was it more an independent contractor you saw in your industry to help you? Was it your first W-2 employee? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I started with independent contractors because I had more what's the word? Like a defined project scope that I wanted them to help me with, but kind of as things went along, I started to have people that I'm like, okay, you need to like actually come onto the team because like I said, I look at things as a whole when it comes to the business strategy. And so I needed the people on my team to be more involved than just that, hey, I'm doing ads for you sort of thing. And I can provide them guidance and whatnot. But ultimately, to get that investment that I wanted, I had to build an actual team. So it started with independent contractors, but it moved from there.
Nate, and was it more local based, or did you start seeing kind of job ads, or maybe using independent sources like a Fiverr type thing? Where were the people coming from?
Yeah, so I got my first couple people on Upwork, and then from there, I've used LinkedIn for hiring. Yeah,
Okay,
so for the independent contractors, I used Upwork.
because they were so job specific.
Yeah, yeah, that was the thing, and I really wanted to, yeah, like you said, get a specialist, and it was also important for me to be able to see their reviews and whatnot too, especially for kind of overcoming that fear of giving any responsibility to anyone. But yeah, so that's where I found those first couple people.
And you've said fear a couple times, so I'm very cognizant. The SMB world, right, small to medium-sized business, has this chokehold at the initial probably $1 million of the owner, the founder, thinking, like you said, they're like, it's not necessarily ego, but it also is like, I want to do the best I can. I started this business. I have a passion for it. I'm the guy or gal that does it the best.
Hmm.
And that unfortunately holds, as a commercial banker in my day-to-day life, companies from going from 300,000, half a million, a million. Once you get to that seven figures, you just can't go it alone, right? And before that, to 3 million or 10 million or $20 million companies, right? Um,
Hmm.
but it is a hurdle. So, did you use some sort of peer group? Did you read some books? Were you part of a mastermind that just kind of helped you solidify that mindset and help you break through, or maybe just a mentor that you were a mentee of?
Yeah, so I read a ton of books. So I think that definitely contributed to it. But it's also funny because I think one of the things that I just told myself that really shift my mindset toward wanting to delegate was that I needed to take my own advice because I've worked with so many businesses to help them grow. And a lot of the time that involved, we need to hire a salesperson. We need to
Mhm.
hire a person to deliver the service. It's so obvious when you're not actually in it to look and say, okay, you have all these leads coming in and you're closing them, but you're not able to deliver the service. Great. All you need to hire is somebody to do those operations and do it well. And that's so easy to say from an outside perspective, but it's like, yeah, that's obvious, Jensen. Like, of course, And so once I accepted that for myself, it was really just that simple, honestly, of just taking my own advice because I knew how to grow businesses, but it was just applying those same lessons and things that I've done for other people to my own business.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard being the prophet in your own land, right? So
Oh, 100%, 100%.
per se, right? So awesome. So look, a lot of times, when you're growing a business and you're starting to build that revenue and then you're bringing on people, you're trying to think like, well, how do I manage the finances, right? And how do I start to be able to save some money for the owner side and distribution at the end of the year? And how do I allocate resources to then maybe impact the best tools that I'm using so that I can upgrade the quality? What were some of the ways that you started learning that, and what were maybe like first two, three buys that you had to do that are purchases that really enhanced the business?
Yeah, great question. Well, I think as far as a mindset thing, that was something that I learned pretty quickly was I just set aside a salary for myself and was just gonna, pay myself and everything else was going to go toward growth and paying employees. I kind of separated the business's money from my own in my head, because I think sometimes, especially when you're a freelancer, you're a solopreneur, you're getting money coming in and you're seeing it as your money, your money, your money and you're taking it out and then you're not putting it back into the business, which ultimately hinders the growth. So that was something that I was like, yeah, I've got to start doing things to invest back into the growth of my business. Um, but as far as what that looks like in practice, something I did was invest in a lot of different softwares to make things quicker and easier and more systematized. Um, is it systemized or systematized? Systemized.
I like them both.
Yeah,
I've seen.
I was like, I'm not sure now that I'm saying it out loud. But anyway, making things more streamlined.
Yeah.
And so I invested pretty handsomely in a lot of different softwares like that. Also, paying for ads, paying for salespeople, paying for team members. Those are the first couple things. And honestly, that's pretty much it even now. I don't have super high overhead, but those are the things that I definitely make sure to carve out money in the business for.
That's great. Well, and there's strategy to that. Each area of business does have its development, and that's why, what got you to $1 million does not get you to 10. What got you to 10 is not going to get you to 25. Those types of benchmarks are certainly things that I see, right, from a commercial banker standpoint and kind of seeing the revenue size and where CapEx needs to come in for maintenance and upgrades and all those types of things. So there's
Mhm.
definitely a play. Let's bring up the side view there where you have the click funnels. It's such an interesting dynamic, Russell Brunson and putting what he's put out there as a value add for business owners. How did you start to use it? Was it something that you used right away? Was it something that you've adapted into? You're a double comma person, so tell us a little bit about how that incorporated into Savage Growth.
Yeah, so that was one of the first marketing tools that I ever really dove heavily into. Um, and I originally got involved with ClickFunnels working for a fitness company and driving traffic to our programs and to our facilities using ClickFunnels. And so that's where I really saw that first bit of success in the kind of performance marketing world. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's a great tool, and I think it was also something that really introduced me to that idea of a funnel, and being able to kind of optimize each piece of the puzzle to get people to the end goal. And that's still kind of how I view things is like each stage you've got to optimize because I always see it as like a bucket. If you've got leaks, you're not getting the ultimate result at the bottom. And so that was kind of what originally introduced me to that idea. But yeah, so ClickFunnels is amazing. I absolutely love it. It was pretty cool to get the shiny award. It kind of shows at least a little bit that I know what I'm doing. So it kind of kicked that off for me and being able to establish a little bit of credibility beyond just saying, I'm great to people.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, look, you've got to self-promote, but then you actually have to have some hardware, some background, some things that maybe you could show. I know some people use maybe their, three-letter MBA or, PhD or all these things to creditize them, right? I don't think I said a word there yet, creditize. Or a book, right? It could be a book or just a really great website. Those types of things are legitimizers, right? For people
Mhm.
to start to value you as someone that they're going to put money and time into. So, we've talked about scaling, your vision of how you built the business, the why behind it, some of the ways that you're, monetizing the tools that you're using. So, what are the next things for Savage Growth Partners and are there industries that you're looking to jump into that are maybe needing your service that could value the things that you're doing? What is the next 6 to 12, 18 months going to look like?
Yeah, yeah. So next step for us is really getting more involved with the businesses that we partner with. So something that we're kind of I'll peel back the curtain on is working with businesses to help them become more sellable. as well, because that's something that has kind of happened as a side effect of the work that I've done with businesses. And so that's kind of something that on the marketing front and operationally going to lean into a little bit more heavily is working with businesses. And also just kind of selfishly, I love the M&A, buying businesses world. I think it's super interesting. And so I'd love to kind of incorporate that into my business as well.
I like it. Well, we'll have to talk offline. So
Yeah, definitely. I was thinking the same thing.
do a lot of M&A stuff. So,
Yeah.
well, here, look, the way we end our interviews are typically with CEO, right? So go for CEO, and C is client experience, E is engagement, and O is operational excellence. And we'll go through each one of those. But why don't you share with the audience and Go for CEO community, what it is to really, with Savage Growth Partners to go through that client experience. I know you shared tidbits and you've shared some really unique knowledge of why you set it up this way. But
Mhm.
what does that look like from a value proposition with Savage Growth Partners?
Yeah. So the process always starts with doing a very deep dive on the businesses that we work with. And that's something that's pretty unique. So we sit down with each business that we take on as a client and we talk about, what's your vision for the business? How do you deliver your services? What's your monetization model? How many employees do you have? What do your business financials look like? Because all of that ultimately plays into the marketing strategy that we build. For example, we need to know how much they can afford to acquire a customer before we can just start sending leads and customers their way, right? And so we kind of look at things on a more granular level. We're looking at things like profit margins. And so we do a really deep dive kind of consult and then build a custom strategy around that. Um, so that's a really big part of the process. And then really from there we're just launching and optimizing and constantly going back to the drawing board of how we're going to move the needle for the business overall. But that's something that I think we do very unique when it comes to client experience. And I get it all the time with working with business owners. They're like, nobody's ever taken this much interest in my company before. They're just looking at, they want to sell a service. They're not
Mhm.
thinking about actually driving that success. And not only am I just interested in driving success because I love growing businesses, but also I think by having that kind of heavier investment and showing that you really care, that's what builds, going back to what I said earlier, those referrals, those relationships that ultimately create that more sustainable business anyway. And so, yeah, as far as client experience, that's what that looks like for us.
I love it. I love it. So, obviously, as you grew your team, the vendors that you work with, the people that you're interacting with, obviously your client base, there's this thing called engagement, right? And I'm always interested and curious in our community, how is it that they want to stay engaged with Jensen, right? And you're the leader of this business, what are the things that you do to either interact and engage with your clients, vendors, employees, all that type of stuff, and share a little bit of insight on that.
Yeah, so I am big into the idea of servant leadership and just in general being a servant to the people that I interact with, whether that's clients or team members. Just going above and beyond to provide value because I'm a big believer in the value that you provide is the value that you'll eventually get back. Kind of even going back to client experience and what that looks like is just putting out that positive energy and just going above and beyond to like even with a team member like understanding what their goals are for their career and aligning their responsibilities within the business to align with their ultimate career goals. So I think that definitely creates a deeper level of engagement, a deeper relationship is just taking that genuine interest in people and going above and beyond to do just small things to show that you care.
All right. Hey, look, those are things that really engage people because now you're hitting the human light switch, right? And you're transactional. We all have to do business, right? There is an aspect of it, and when you first start a business, gosh, it could feel like a desperation in a way. Uh,
Yes.
you need that next deal to come through, but as you establish yourself and as you could take a step back, turning that transaction into a long-lasting relationship is so key to longevity in the business and not just flipping from one idea to the next, right? So,
Yeah.
Really cool stuff. So last one is operational excellence. You kind of shared obviously using ClickFunnels and some of the tools. What are some other aspects and even AI right now? It's a big impact on business. Is it affecting your industry and what you guys do? What are the tools that you're using to maximize operational excellence?
Oh yeah, yeah. There's so many tools, and as I mentioned before, I've invested handsomely in a bunch of different softwares and things just to make things a little bit quicker, a little bit more streamlined. If we can save a couple minutes a week, I'm all for it. So I have a whole tech stack of different AI softwares. I will recommend to other business owners out there if you don't already use AppSumo. That's an awesome place to get up and coming tools. A lot of them are AI driven, and a lot of them kind of help with operations in general. And yeah, so normally what you do is you pay for like a lifetime subscription to these things, and it's pretty cool. So I've gotten some awesome tools through that. Uh, but as far as operationally, another great tool is Asana. I love that tool for project management. There's all kinds of different capabilities, and you can build workflows and things that just make things simple, especially in a business like mine where there's 40 different things running at any given time. And on the AI front, like I said, there's a lot of tools that we use pretty heavily that have AI. So, for example, like with blog creation, we have a couple of different tools to kind of help us get started with blog creation. We don't just do, like AI generated blogs because it's not quite there yet. And we also like to have more of a customized approach when creating content because I think you need to have value within the content that you create, but it's awesome to do AI generated content and then kind of have that as a starting point and then be able to refine from there. It makes the content generation process like 80% faster. So yeah, those are a couple of things that kind of off the top of my head we've used that made things a lot faster for us.
It's interesting. I've been diving into it. I'm almost 50. I know I don't look it. Um, but it's interesting to see my kids, right? A seventh grader, a fifth grader, and a kindergartner, all girls, kind of starting to talk to me like, "Hey, Dad, are you using AI? Like, I'm hearing this and hearing that, and look, ChatGPT can do this and all that stuff." And as I've written my book, I've taken some of that ability to take what I created and enhance it, right? And it's actually taught me over the last 3 to 6 months, like, oh, okay, it's not that it's taking over, because that's the scary part of media and what they're selling us, like AI is taking over everything. It's more like, oh, it's my tool, but it's like a really freaking smart tool.
Yeah.
Super fast,
Yeah.
and amazingly smart, and it's so incredible. So awesome stuff. So Jensen, what are some of the ways, as we end the interview here, that people can get a hold of you, that they can email you, that can social media, like where are you at and how do you like to be connected?
Yeah, so great place to connect with me is LinkedIn. So if you search up my name, Jensen Savage, and connect with me there, you can also check out my website at savagegrowthpartners.com. Yeah, those are probably the best ways to get in touch with me.
Well, I love it. Love it. Any last inspiring words? Obviously, like I said at the beginning, I'm a girl dad. Love seeing the women entrepreneurs. I'm going to have my daughter listen to this one,
I
uh,
love it.
because I think it's neat to see that aspect, right? And I'm an only child, so having three daughters, I think it's God's way of messing with me. So,
Yeah, I would say parting words. I'm a big proponent of understanding that the process is going to involve failure. And when you
mm,
do fall, you've just got to get back up with no lack of enthusiasm and keep moving forward. So I think the more you accept that failure is just a part of the process and not happening because you're not good at your job or you're not doing enough, I think the more success you'll have.
I love it. Well, hey, Jensen just dropped the bomb. I am John the Bomb. Building others means business. So awesome stuff. Thank you so much for being on the Go for CO channel.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.